Welcome to A Window to Bourne. I'm your host, Mavis Robinson, and today I'm here with BTV's own Phil Goddard. Phil, thanks for being here.
Pleasure to be here. It's interesting being on the other side of the studio this time.
I'm the one asking the questions now. Well, Phil, you're involved with Bourne Community Television, and we're going to get to that. But I also want to get to just your roots in Bourne. You're currently living here full time, correct?
I am.
Now, have you always been a full-time resident? What brought you to Bourne?
I have not. What brought me to Bourne is really my family roots, which go back to 1879 in Monument Beach. And that property has been a summer home for many decades, obviously. In the late 80s, I moved down year-round. So I grew up there in the summers, and then I grew up in Hanover, Mass. In the winters, and then down here in the summers. And then in 1888, my dad passed away, and we had some decisions to make with the children. My siblings are much older than I am. They had families. And at the time, I just graduated college, literally just graduated college, and I decided that, well, I'll come down and live at the house here. I couldn't afford to keep the house, maintain it, and just out of college and work in Boston or something. So I came down here while I figured out what my life was going to be. So that's how I ended up in Bourne year-round.
Oh, all right. Wow. So you've been here ever since then?
With the exception of a few years, I got a job in Connecticut for about 3 years, and then I came back. Yeah.
Well, let's start from the start. You said 1879 was when your family bought the place.
Correct. My great-great-grandfather was a lawyer in Barnstable at the Superior Court system, and was also a proctor at what was called Sandwich Academy. And he was really a minister looking for a congregation. So while he was doing those things, he was looking for a congregation. He eventually went to Brockton for that. But I think that's where our family got familiar with the Cape, because they were originally from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and then Brookline before that, Mass. And so his son, I think, heard about the area from his father, and when he was in his mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, he founded this place and purchased it. And Monument Beach really was just a small fishing village, as I understand it, prior to the tracks coming in the 1870s. And once the tracks came in, that opened up everything. And a lot of Brocktonians, at that time, Brockton was the shoe capital of the world, and a lot of families said, we don't want summer houses, and they built them and so there's a whole wave of houses built in the Victorian area down in Monument Beach that were from Brockton. So my family's from Brockton, and I think that's how they all started coming down.
And so this is your great-grandfather?
It's my great-grandfather Henry, Dr. Henry, who was founder of the Goddard Hospital in Brockton.
And so do you have you brought a photo of the house?
So we have a whole series of photos. You asked about my family, so we have some great old photos of Monument Beach, and we can walk through those photos right now.
I'd love to just see a picture of the actual house, around the time that it was purchased.
So here's the first house that my family built. The gentleman sitting on the railing there with the pork chop beard, sideburns, is my great-grandfather, Dr. Henry Goddard, who was a minister, then became a doctor and founded the Goddard Hospital in Brockton. Some of the folks that are watching, I know in the community, were born there. It was the first obstetrics hospital in southeastern Mass. And the gentleman standing down below looking up is Reverend Warren Goddard, was the gentleman that I mentioned was looking for a place to be a minister, but was a lawyer on the Cape. So he's the great-great-grandfather down below.
So this is your great-grandfather and then his father.
And so on the great-grandfather on the porch is the great-grandfather, and then on the far right with the hat is my grandfather, and then next to him is his sister, so my great-aunt. So that's the first house that was built, roughly 1879, 1880. So this is what Mo Beach, when we go to the next photos, you'll see how it fits in.
And that's all the houses lined up.
So this is looking from the public beach back towards the house, and there's a little mark by the mast there. That's about where our house was. So you can see how vulnerable it was to coastal erosion, and all these gingerbread houses like Oak Bluffs. I think they modeled it after Oak Bluffs. Little monopoly houses.
Oh, wow. Do you have any idea of the age of that picture?
Oh, yeah, that's 1870s, early 1880s.
Wow. Wow.
That's you go to the next one. And this is a view of the same area looking from the beach up, and on the left is the big Norcross Hotel, which we'll talk about in a second.
The Norcross.
So this is what the original, my great-grandfather would have lived in and seen. Go next one. This is looking towards Beach Street and County Road. You can see a chapel right underneath that yellow blob there.
Oh, yeah.
That's now Chapel Street.
Chapel
It was
Street.
literally a chapel.
Yep.
Friends of mine live there now. This is looking from the hotel towards where Cumberland Farms is, and you can see the train station. That's the old wooden train station. And then to the far right of the photo is a kind of a spire. That's one of the big houses there that burned in 1906.
Oh, yeah.
From the sparks from the train, which is why they built the brick, and then they built the brick train station
so
that you
this
see now.
predates that brick.
This predates
yeah,
that, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Interesting note, on the bottom right there's a house, the one on the bottom right, then the one next to it was moved to the blank spot, the bottom left of the picture, because the woman thought it was too windy. So they moved the house. My friend owns that house now. Next photo. This is Chester Park, Monument Beach.
wow.
There are tennis courts there now, but all the houses you see are still there.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, that's a gorgeous
And that's a windmill
picture.
up there to pump water.
Yep, yep.
So this is probably circa 1910.
Now, is this, do you know what's happening here? Is this
Yeah,
some
playing
sort of a
baseball.
baseball game?
This is turn of the century.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Next photo. This is the gingerbread houses on the left, so that's where my family had a house, and this is the point where Norcross Hotel was eventually built. So take a shot in your mind what this looks like. This is the Stearns Club. Stearns was the gentleman that owned the land off Worcester Avenue, that whole area that he subdivided and sold, and that's why it's called Worcester Avenue, because he was from Worcester, Mass.
Okay.
Stearns Club then moved to where Cumberland Farms is, and if you go to the next photo, this is what was replaced.
God.
This is Norcross replaced the Stearns Club.
Wow.
So you can see the gingerbread houses on the left,
Yep,
and they built that beautiful seawall of giant pink granite slabs.
yep.
Pretty amazing. So
And
this
now-
was a major hotel.
And
Yeah.
what can you tell us about the Norcross? Do you know much about the
It was-
the history, or?
It was a very hugely successful hotel that people from New York would come up in the train, and in the 30s had seaplanes landing off in Finney's Harbor,
Oh my
and
gosh.
taxiing up to a
Yeah.
big dock there. It was a happening spot in the 1890s and early turn of the century. So you'll see some photos there coming up. So there you go. This is what the staff. This is in its heyday. Probably World War I, thereabouts. Great photo. This is the prime days of Norcross. It had sad days later on.
I mean, one thing I noticed about this picture is you've got the one gorgeous car there,
Yeah.
but only one car, not a lot of parking. Most
Yeah,
people
no.
showed up on the train.
The train was right down the street.
Yeah, yeah.
This was made into an oil painting or watercolor that is out there, and you might see it in galleries on the Cape. People have a picture, and it's this hotel.
Yeah.
Next photo. This is the hotel in the 50s. The seawall that whole area that was vulnerable in the first photo that I showed you was built up. And this was built in the 50s after a series of hurricanes. Where their building is where I live now, and the property my family has.
Yep.
But we were next to the hotel, and it was loud and obnoxious in the 50s and 60s with a little bar. And
Yeah, yeah.
it was not a fun place to be next to, so we weren't mourning its passing, if you will.
Right. Yeah, that's actually it kind of past its heyday.
Oh yeah, this was.
Once the railroad stopped.
And there were other hotels on the Cape. and
Yeah.
The train, you had cars, people drove to destinations, the train, Next photo. So this is when I first moved down in the late 80s. This is 1989, December. And there are quahoggers out in the middle of Finney's Harbor, which is very unusual. The ice was so thick, they're cutting through by
Oh, wow.
Old Cow. And looking straight back, you see the house with the garage. That's the house that I live in now. That's the third house that the Goddard family's had.
Wow, cutting through the ice. I mean, we haven't seen that for
This is a photo,
years.
right? And this is a photo of after Hurricane Bob. We had boats up on our seawall, and this is the paper. A couple of years ago, it was the 25th anniversary. Seems like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But we had some pretty dramatic times through hurricanes, and this was one of them. Big boats up on the wall.
Were you around during Hurricane
Yeah, I
Bob?
pulled my sailboat out. Absolutely.
You lost power, the
Oh,
whole thing?
all of that. Yeah, people looting and coming across our lawn, looking to get down and loot these boats, and
Really?
salvage rights. Oh yeah, it was
Oh,
pretty
gosh.
dramatic. Had to
Oh,
kick them off
wow.
the lawn.
Wow.
Next photo. This is just an example of looking from my house back towards the beach, the opposite way we looked at earlier. This is during, I think, Tropical Storm Irene
Okay.
a few years ago.
Yeah, so not quite the hurricane, but to give
No,
you an
but
idea.
you can see how
yeah.
the water blew through the park there.
Yep.
Pretty amazing. Next photo. This is a view from my house looking out towards Toby's and Mashney. Just a dramatic photo, and it is the kitten sailboat that I have right there. It was made right on MacArthur Boulevard by Bigelow's.
Oh, nice, yeah.
It's a famous local sailboat design.
Yep.
Next
And,
photo.
and they've been in operation for...
They were in operation from the 1890s,
Yep.
and they actually were down at Mo Beach, and the town bought them out by eminent domain and moved them, and they ended up being on MacArthur Boulevard. They're no longer in business, but about 75 years or so. And looking towards Hog Island from my house, the great sunsets in the summer. That sunset is in the summer, but in the winter it's between Mashney and Toby's. The sun moves that far.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Next photo. Just another shot looking out. This is, I think, sunrise with the moon still out. And there was a nice catch there. One of the neighbors had a boat. And another shot of my local sailboat.
That's your Bigelow boat.
Great boat made right on MacArthur Boulevard. Next one. All right, so here's some family photos. This is me with those kitten sailboats in the background. There's a lot of them around there. I'm about probably 2.
Yeah.
And so the harbor looks the same. I don't, my Gilligan hat, but it's right there at the same house.
Yeah.
So that's how far I go back sailing when I was that young.
So now I want to pause on this picture a little bit, because I feel like we've talked about your family and how you got started, how the family got started here, but what the experience of being this young and the beach must have been one of your earliest memories.
Absolutely, and playing with my next door neighbor down, big checkers on the towel down there, and so many wonderful memories in the summer. Growing up, learning how to swim, playing tennis.
Yeah.
Kids across the street, there were a gaggle of kids. We used to hang out and go sunfish sailing over at the dike across the harbor there, and then go see movies at Mayor White's house at Finney's Point when he was mayor of Boston in the 70s.
Yeah.
When we had movies in a house, which was a big treat. You
That
didn't have
must have been
VHS,
incredible.
Unbelievable. I had 20 kids, and then we'd walk back home across the beach at night and play soccer.
So this was at the mayor's house?
At the mayor's summer house, and he was in his heyday. And it was great. We played soccer in the field next to his house, the Fairbanks, where the cannon of which is at the Uptuxet complex. That little
really?
Heather Hill
That
cannon
Yeah.
was right. We played right there underneath that cannon, and then Mr. Fairbanks would fire it off every once in a while.
Oh,
So I
that's
played
so
barefoot
cool.
soccer right there.
Yeah.
Many wonderful memories.
I've
of
heard
that.
stories. That's kind of a part of the lore of the
Yep.
town, but I've
Yep.
never heard somebody who witnessed it directly.
Absolutely. I think it was an eggy shot out, or a golf ball. I can't remember.
Right,
I'd
right.
probably get in trouble for doing that now. So yeah, every summer I grew up in Hanover, as I said, and then I would coming down here. It was another world. Smelling the salt air for the first time coming over the bridge.
Yes.
It was a huge impact as a kid, and then going back to school, I had to reorient myself. So I was living in two worlds for a long, long time. And it was kind of fun when my summer friends met my winter friends. And I thought it'd be great, but then they all compared notes about me.
Right. Yeah, that never works. Worlds
never
colliding. I know.
But now they all know each other.
Yeah,
It's kind of fun, But it was interesting. You had a summer set and a winter set.
Yeah. Well, and I think just thinking about the concept of being young, being at the beach. I mean, you must have had a lot of freedom just to sort of wander around.
Wander around barefoot. My feet were all calloused by the end of the summer. Of course, you get cut on all the scallop clams, but then the salt water was there to heal them. And,
Right.
Cohogging and digging for sea worms at the base of the Norcross, getting, these big giant sea worms would pinch you, and then the rats were down underneath, the sea rats.
Oh, God.
And it was kind of scary and cool at the same time. And then we'd go fishing or crabbing in Back River and use the mussels for bait for fishing with drop lines. And then I would go over to Mo Beach and take swimming lessons and junior life-saving lessons. And there was a van that came one summer that talked about marine science, and I think that got me into environmental science and environmental issues. That was a big thing in the 70s, and so very influential on me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we'd go to the town dump and,
We call it the landfill.
I know. So we got a few more pictures.
Well, yeah. So you talked about playing tennis. So I know we have a photo of you.
Right. So here's
right at the courts.
This is literally next to the studio, looking back towards the studio. I grew up playing tennis at Chester Park, where we showed them playing baseball.
Yeah.
But the big tournament was an all-village tournament at the end of the summer every year, and so the boy on the left, Jackie Mulhern, and the tennis teacher there. And then I represented Mo Beach playing against Pocasset, which might as well have been the Soviet Union, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it was a big deal back then.
Yeah.
And
the rivalries of
big
this,
time.
this road versus that road.
So
right?
I won the tournament. I still have that trophy, and I got a gift certificate at Betty Ann's for an ice cream. So
oh, that's awesome. Did it include mini golf or just the ice cream?
Just the ice cream. Yeah, that was a big deal. So that's me at 12 with hair.
Yeah.
Next photo. And you know, eventually living down here year-round, we'll have some. This is me working for the town of Bourne. I came out of college looking for a career in the environmental world, but went to business school, and I was struggling. And at that time, fortuitously in '89, the recycling committee started, and I joined the recycling committee, was a founding member, and really got involved in solid waste. And so I combined my business with environmental interests.
Yeah.
And then helped the town develop the recycling program, which eventually, what are we going to do with the landfill?
Yeah.
And then I was a consultant, and then I got jobs based on my work with the recycling committee, taking cameras from this studio and going and doing research at other facilities and getting jobs. And then eventually I got laid off enough times I came back, but a selectman, Roland DuPont, and this is much more in depth than the 25th anniversary show that we did here in the studio. It's in the library. Get the show, you can see the whole history.
Yeah.
But I was hired by the town, and then eventually we created a new department called ISWM, Integrated Solid Waste Management. That's where I work. And there was a shot of me at the landfill, capping part of the landfill. I didn't cap it, but I was there.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And we have a shot of me 28 years ago at the entrance to the facility. When I did a show on the facility. So this is back to my family now. This is my brother and me. My brother and I own the house. We had 4 children that were part of that house and grew up there. My brother and my 2 sisters. I'm a child from 2 different marriages. 3 of us share the father. And he and I own the house. He comes up from South Carolina in the summers, and this was a shot a couple of years ago.
Oh, very nice.
And then my mother is at Keystone. We sold the house in Hanover and moved her down to Keystone, so which is right by the canal. So I took her out on a nice sunny day to the canal.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She'll be 93.
Yeah.
In January.
Yep.
And this is a shot of my dad. He is buried at the National Cemetery. So MacArthur Boulevard is special to me. At one end is where I served in the Coast Guard, and my dad is buried there. My cousin's buried there. I worked in restaurants up and down MacArthur Boulevard. It was great, and now I work on MacArthur Boulevard.
Right,
it's just amazing how much of my life is MacArthur Boulevard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just amazing. So it's a great, wonderful national cemetery, and it's spectacular to go to. So.
Yep, yep. It's beautiful, and these days they have the beautiful wreaths out everywhere.
Oh, and the flags during Memorial Day. You've got to go. So I've gone every Memorial Day service. So BTV is the evolution of several different studios. I started when it was Hair and Cable, then it became Adelphia, then it became Comcast, and now it's Bourne Television.
Right.
And we had a party for all the producers, and just what a great place this is. And I've had so much fun being part of BTV. So I brought the hat with me to Seattle. This is on the ferry going to Bainbridge Island. And it's just such a treasure. And I'm glad you're doing a show. We can talk about wonderful things in Bourne. In and around the area. My show, as you know, is on environmental issues. I just had a show on the Tidal Test Center. We're in the canal where they're doing hydrokinetic. It's just a great opportunity to talk about interesting topics.
What's the title of your show, Phil?
Bourne Environmental Review.
Okay, nice. Yep.
And I've been on for many years doing that, talking about a whole range of things.
Yep.
But
well, I love the fact that you sort of can track back with a specific memory that van coming to visit when you were a kid.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was the seed of your environmental interest.
And then I went back to Hanover in junior high around that time, and I'd be out in the swamp behind the junior high school looking at the larvae and looking at the ecosystem out there in the muck and back in the wetlands in Hanover and getting into it with the teacher there. And we took a field trip to Hui, the Marine Biological Laboratory, and I wanted to be a marine scientist at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhere along the line, I didn't keep up with my scientific pursuits. And if you get behind in science, you can never catch up. So by the time I got to college, it was like, oh, I better do business.
Yeah. But
I never lost my interest, so I get to play in the world of engineering and science every day. as an environmental manager and working permitting at the town, it's great.
Yep.
Great combination of all sorts of disciplines.
Yeah, yeah.
Business background, marketing.
Well, and I have to say, it's one of the funniest things about living in town is how much people love the dump.
Right.
And, you know,
we've given up trying to correct people.
I know.
It's not the dump, but it's affectionely called the dump.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
my
feel
family,
like you said it earlier, so I was
right.
okay.
Well, it was a dump when I went there. It was the unlined dump. Now it's a modern facility, and my family said, "Oh, here comes Phil, the landfill. Here comes
the
landfill." So, you know, it's one of these things that is a very popular spot.
Yep.
Our Congressman Bill Keating goes down there all the time, loves going to the swap shop.
Oh, the swap shop is amazing.
It's hugely popular.
Yeah.
And
I think it was just in the Cape Cod Times recently, and when I saw it, I was thinking like, oh God, don't tell about our secret. You know, everybody feels like, you know, only I know about that. Although I always see the same people there time and time again.
It's a lot going on there, and it's been a career for me in many ways, and I can't thank the town of Bourne enough and the leadership and the town for hiring me in many ways and giving me an opportunity. It changed my life, you know, essentially. Volunteering, and I recommend anybody to get involved with it. You're passionate about as a volunteer, and then you find opportunities. And that happened for me.
Yep. And
it led to something really fantastic and a lot of fun, and deeply rewarding personally.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that seems like the type of job that, you know, when you expect teenagers to know what they want to do when they grow up, people don't know what jobs are out there.
Right.
You know, so we have like the jobs that they make little figurines of, you know, like policemen, firemen, you know, Coast Guard, whatever. But people don't know that. You know,
I think if you volunteer for something you're interested in, you start to learn about what you like, and you also learn how to interact with people.
Yeah.
And you never know what jobs come to influence you later on. I was talking to you earlier that my first job in the summer was at Howard Johnson's at the Rotary.
Right.
And back in the early 80s, that place was very, very busy. On a Saturday, there'd be lines out the door. And so I had a whole section of the restaurant by myself, and I had to clear the tables, write the checks, deal with, you know, cantankerous people in the summer, make ice creams, you know, run around, all that stuff. High stress, multitasking.
Yep.
You never went to the kitchen empty-handed, never came out. So all that sort of stuff actually has helped me in my career, multitask.
Yep.
Listen to people when they have a complaint, understand where they're coming from, try to resolve it, understand, let them express what they need to express. All these types of activities, speaking in public, dealing with the back of the house, which is the kitchen, the front of the house. So the front of the house is the recycling center, the back of the house is the landfill and all the So it's just funny how a job as a waiter, all these years later, still I think I draw upon some of those skills.
Yeah.
You never know.
And to learn it at that time too, like it's now wired, your brain is wired
I
because
think so.
of that.
And so I would say to young kids, you know, get out and try something, but be aware that you can learn things wherever you're working.
Yeah,
you know, especially if you're down here in the summers, a lot of service industries.
Right.
It's high stress. It's pretty fast-paced. Lobster trap is rocking and rolling now.
Yeah.
And by the way, I should say that as memories of Bourne, I'm very, very proud of this. That as a consultant to the selectmen, the framework of ISWM in the permitting and how we were going to do it was laid out at the lobster trap and at the library in the upper room there. And right in Bourne. It's very homegrown.
Was it the library, the old library? Or
no, not that far back.
Yeah.
I remember that old library. I had a library card
here's
there.
the question.
Yeah.
When you were at the lobster trap hammering things out, did you have a cooler of beer next to you? Or?
No, I was on the clock, no. But back in the 80s, you could bring your own beer.
Yeah.
That's the lobster trap I grew up with was, number 33,
Right,
the seafood
right,
platter, coming,
right.
Going up and gut it, and there was the roll-up windows. And I really missed that in a way, but they've done a great job. It's a beautiful
amazing.
place.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's obviously a different feel than it used to be,
Yep.
but they're very successful. I think it's a great job that they've done.
It's funny. I'm glad you phrased it that way, because when you lose an institution, I mean, the lobster trap, the old lobster trap was such an important institution to locals. But really, what's there now is just
it's beautiful. I think that
just
some of
as
the
good.
people in the village, would like it to be a little less congested with the traffic.
Right,
but
right. Well, I don't go there in
they're so
July
successful.
and August, right?
But I'm glad I grew up in the era when I could go there and it was the old style. And then Gooch's store in Monument Beach, those from Mo Beach, candy bars for 10 cents.
Right.
Get the pixie sticks that were a foot
Oh,
and a half
those,
long.
yeah.
But we were running around all day long, so I guess you
right.
burn up the calories.
Yeah, you needed that
Canada
sugar.
Dry had a distribution center there, so they had all the soda right there, the
right.
grape soda.
Yeah.
A lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of great. I played another memory I'll play is Minerva's Pizza played the Space Invaders, the first game, video game, in a table. You had your pizza and you playing Space Invaders.
And it was a glass table.
Glass tabletop.
Yes,
right.
yes, yeah.
Right.
Oh man, I miss Minerva's Pizza. That
I
was
miss
so
Minerva's
good.
Pizza.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Oh gosh.
So many fond memories. Bourne is a wonderful town. There's lots of distinct villages. Mo Beach is very different than Sagamore, Sagamore Beach, and Katamet. So that's my experience in Monument Beach, which is a great village to live in. Year round. I love it. It's quiet in the winter. I kind of have it to ourselves.
Yep.
And but in the summer it's fun with all the folks coming down. So it's a great mixture.
Yeah.
Of a lot of different folks.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
You never know who you're going to meet.
I know.
A lot of interesting retarees.
Well, it's amazing. I live in Monument Beach too. We're meeting for just the first time.
You never know.
Yeah. It is an incredible place. So from environmental perspective, you really you've been here for a long time. You're professionally looking at environmental issues. What do you think is the biggest issue kind of facing the town from what you've seen?
Well, I think we need to address nitrogen issues. That's a big issue on the Cape, and how we're addressing that with the increase in the sewage treatment facility in Buzzards Bay, and that's going to help with our overall balance in the town. That's great. We have very good water in this side of the bridge, which is excellent, and it's away from the military base. Solid waste, of course, using our energy. But I think looking at how we're going to try to reduce our impact on the bay embayments in the area is part of what we really need to look at going forward.
Yeah, seeing all that green along that stretch of beach is
right. Septic systems are there, and we need to be aware that we probably can do more to reduce our footprint on that. I'm thinking about maybe not using fertilizer as much.
Right. Yeah.
So there's plenty of those issues, and we've got great pollution task force and other groups and Board of Health that talk about these issues. We're not growing, at least in Monument Beach or Katamet. There's not a lot of land left. So it's basically how do we try to reduce our impacts while we're here.
What we have already. Right. So the show again, give me the name of the show.
Bourne Environmental Review.
Bourne Environmental Review. I'm going to make sure I catch that because I do love keeping up on the environmental topics. And thanks so much for talking with me today and sharing your
thank you for having me.
Pictures
It's fun to be on the other
stories.
side. And I'll just say to the viewers here, come on down, check out the studios, take a course, and be a producer. And it's just been a huge fun part of my life.
Yeah. It is a lot of fun. I mean, it's a nice group.
I'll just say I've flown to San Francisco, I've been to NORAD, and I've been in helicopters all because of TV shows here.
Wow, that's not bad.
It's a story for another time.
Well, thank you for joining us today on A Window to Bourne, and I'll see you next time.